Hello dear aspirants, I am your Srinivas sir. As a part of this video, we are going to discuss the concept of ELT in India. So this topic is very useful for the examinations like PGT, TGT, JL, DL and also for the school assistant examination. So whenever we come across the introduction of English language into Indian scenario, into Indian education context, we often think that Macaulay's minutes was the major thing. But there are many things that took place before the Macaulay's minute. So here in this video, we are going to discuss the reasons that led to the introduction of English language into Indian education. Okay, this is one of the important areas where we can expect one or two questions. మీరు గతంలో జరిగినటువంటి ఎగ్జామినేషన్ చూసినప్పుడు లైక్ గురుకుల రిక్రూట్మెంట్ జేఎల్ కావచ్చు లేదా పీజీటీ టీజీటీ లాంటి ఎగ్జామ్ కావచ్చు ఆర్ ఈవెన్ ద స్కూల్ అసిస్టెంట్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్ కావచ్చు. సో ఈ టాపిక్ పైన చాలాసార్లు ఒకటి లేదా రెండు క్వశ్చన్స్ ప్రతి పేపర్లో అడుగుతున్నాడు. సో లెట్ us try to learn the things about the concept of the introduction of English language teaching in India. So this is the concept that we are going to discuss and it is very helpful to you. జాగ్రత్తగా వినండి. And we are also going to solve some questions on this concept. And if you look at the concept, the history of English education in India, it is broadly classified into two areas. The very first area is the English education in pre-independent India and English education in post-independent India. So what were the implications before the independence and after the independence regarding English education? So these things are to be noted whenever we talk about the history of English language in India, right? So here this video is specifically designed for the concepts related to the pre-independent India and English implications. So these things are going to be discussed here. And more specifically, the history of English education in India can be divided into three phases. Okay, there are three phases when we want to understand the history of English education in India. Phase 1 is from the dawn of 17th century to the period of Macaulay's minutes. It means around 1790s to 1835. So 1790s is a period where Charles Grant and other people strongly recommended the introduction of English language into Indian education, and Macaulay's minutes, which we believe that which made the English language as the official language in education and administration. So adi first period ga cheppuntamu almost from 1790 nundi 1835 varaki. And the phase 2 is the period between Macaulay's minutes 1835. So appadi nundi till the India's independence 1947. So ఆ పీరియడ్ వరకు ఉన్నటువంటి దాన్ని మనం సెకండ్ ఫేజ్గా చెప్పుకుంటాము. అండ్ ద థర్డ్ ఫేజ్ ఈజ్ ఫ్రమ్ పీరియడ్ ఆఫ్టర్ ఇండియాస్ ఇండిపెండెన్స్, దట్ ఈస్ 1947 to till date. So that is the third phase or third period, and these are the three phases that we need to know if we want to understand the concept of ELT in India. So as a part of this first one, phase 1, we have to learn the Charter Act of 1813 and after that the GCPI, okay, General Committee on Public Instruction. We have to understand that one, and we need to know about the Macaulay's minutes, and we need to know about the Wood's dispatch. Wood's dispatch is also pretty learned, and then after that the Sadler's Commission or Hunter Commission. These are all the things that we need to know as a part of the pre-independence. And after independence, we need to know about the different national policies on education, and we also need to know about the three language formula or University Education Commission or Indian Education Commission or Secondary Education Commission. All these are the things that are to be learnt as a part of phase 3. So but this video is completely dedicated to discuss the phase 1. In this video we are going to discuss the things that are there before Macaulay's minute. Okay, Macaulay's minute ముందు వరకు ఉన్నటువంటి ఇష్యూస్ ని గురించి మనం ఈ వీడియోలో డిస్కస్ చేయబోతున్నాము. మరి ఈ ఫేజ్ 1 కి సంబంధించి గత పీజీటీ టీజీటీ ఎగ్జామ్లో కావచ్చు లేదా దానికి ముందు జరిగినటువంటి జేఎల్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్స్లో కావచ్చు చాలాసార్లు క్వశ్చన్స్ అడిగారు. సో ఇట్ ఈస్ వన్ షాట్ మెనీ బర్డ్స్. అంటే మనం ఈ ఒక కాన్సెప్ట్ తెలుసుకోవడం ద్వారా చాలా రకాల ఎగ్జామ్స్కి మనం ఆన్సర్ చేయొచ్చు. ద సేమ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ వర్ ఆస్క్డ్ ఈవెన్ ఇన్ ద ఎస్జిటి ఎగ్జామినేషన్. తెలంగాణ టీఆర్టీలో భాగంగా ఎస్జిటిలో కూడా దీనిపైన 2 లేదా 3 క్వశ్చన్స్ గతంలో అడగబడినాయి. అంటే ఇంగ్లీష్ లాంగ్వేజ్ సంబంధించి ఏ టీచర్ రిక్రూట్మెంట్ లేదా లెక్చరర్ రిక్రూట్మెంట్ ఎగ్జామ్ చూసినా కూడా ఈ టాపిక్లో నుంచి మనకి క్వశ్చన్స్ వస్తూ ఉంటాయి. సో లెట్ us learn the concepts that led to the introduction of English language in India, right? So these are the 3 phases that we need to understand, but let us discuss phase 1 in this video. And if we want to learn the phase 1, we should begin from before that let us try to answer one question. Which of the following led to the introduction of English education in India? This is the previous question. గత ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో అడగబడినటువంటి ఒక క్వశ్చన్ ఇది. సో వాట్ ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ లెడ్ టు ద ఇంట్రొడక్షన్ ఆఫ్ ఇంగ్లీష్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్ ఇండియా? సో దట్ ఈస్ ద ఫస్ట్ క్వశ్చన్. అండ్ లెట్ us look at the first statement. Charter Act of 1813 led to the introduction of English education. Second one, GCPI, General Committee of Public Instruction, 1823. And third one is Orientalist and Anglicist controversy led to the introduction of English education in India. So in these 3, which do you think are the right things that led to the introduction of English language in India? Look at the options here. Option 1 and 3 are correct. Second one, option 2 and 3 are correct. And third one, 1, 2, 3 led to the introduction. And option 4, 1 and 2 led to the introduction. So which one do you think is the right answer? Many people think that Macaulay's Minute led to the introduction of English language into India, but that is a wrong notion. Dear aspirants, remember here, these are the 3 things that led to the introduction of English education into Indian context. But here, Macaulay's Minute officially proclaimed the language policy of education and administration. Later, Wood's Dispatch consolidated the recommendations of Macaulay's Minute. So, ఇది ఒక హైరార్కీగా మనం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సి ఉంటుంది, రైట్? చార్టర్ యాక్ట్ 1813, నెక్స్ట్ వన్ GCPI 1823, అండ్ లేటర్ దీని తర్వాత GCPIకి ప్రెసిడెంట్గా ఉన్నాడు కదా లార్డ్ మెకాలే. సో అతను ఇచ్చినటువంటి మినిట్స్, మెకాలేస్ మినిట్స్ 1835, అండ్ ఫైనల్లీ కన్సాలిడేషన్ వుడ్స్ డిస్పాచ్ 1854. దిస్ ఈస్ ద హైరార్కీ. సో 1813, 1823, 1835 and 1854. This is the hierarchy. These are the milestones behind the introduction of English education into Indian scenario. So these are the things that we need to understand, and we are going to discuss the entire history. మరి ఈ వీడియోలో మనం ఈ హిస్టరీ మొత్తాన్ని గురించి కూడా డీటెయిల్గా డిస్కస్ చేయబోతున్నాము, right? So look at the first one and listen to each and every point carefully, because we expect 1 or 2 questions from this concept in any examination. మీరు ఏ పరీక్ష అయినా తీసుకోండి, అందులో 1 లేదా 2 క్వశ్చన్స్ వస్తుంటాయి. సో హియర్ we should begin from 1599. Okay, 1599 was the year where the English people brought this East India Company, ECI, into India. Okay, and it got its acceptance and it got the permission to trade with the Indians in the year 1601. So entered into East India Company, entered into India in 1599, and it got permission in 1601 to trade with the Indian merchants. And soon after the East India Company, even the British missionaries also entered India. So these British missionaries wanted to do 2 things. They wanted to establish schools for the education of children of their Anglo-Indian servants. Okay, usually the missionaries have Anglo-Indian servants, and their children needed to be educated in English. So they wanted to establish schools that teach English language. So they wanted to establish schools that teach English language, and they also wanted to spread Christianity in this country. So this was all about around 1602 or 1605. But the East India Company completely rejected this idea of spreading Christianity and the introduction of the English medium schools in India. It is just because of the earlier wars that British has engaged in. So అంతకుముందు ఇలాంటి ఎడ్యుకేషన్ లేదా క్రిస్టియానిటీలోకి మార్చడం ద్వారా చాలా యుద్ధాలు జరిగాయి, just like the Plassey, and దాన్ని దృష్టిలో పెట్టుకొని ఇక్కడ just the policy of religious neutrality was maintained by British government till 1813. Okay, till 1813 it maintained religious neutrality. Okay, so it did not accept the desire or intention of the British missionaries to introduce English education and to spread their Christianity in India. So that's the reason we can say this particular desire or this particular notion of introducing that English and spreading the religion was stopped by East India Company because it wanted to maintain a policy of religious neutrality. Okay, because it was afraid that there might be hesitation from the people of India if they do so, right? So that was the thing we need to understand here. And later we need to talk about the things that are related to Charles Grant. Okay, Charles Grant. So we all know who that Charles Grant was. He was the director of the East India Company. Okay, Charles Grant was the director of East India Company, and we also call them the father of modern education in India. So Charles Grant మన father of modern education in India అని చెప్పుకుంటాము. In the year 1792 he brought a treatise. Okay, in the year 1792 he brought a treatise with the title of Observations on the state of society among the Asiatic subjects of Great Britain. So this was the treatise brought by Sir Charles Grant in the year 1792. And we can say to be this is the blueprint of English education in India. దీన్ని మనం blueprint of English education in India గా చెప్పుకోవచ్చు, because with the help of this treatise he wanted to introduce English language. He wanted to introduce English language into Indian scenario in order to bring a change socially, morally, and also even intellectually. So right, this treatise is known as the first blueprint on English education in India. And why did he want to introduce that English education in India? So English education in Indian society can change morally, socially, and mentally. So ఎందుకు ఇంగ్లీష్ని ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేద్దాం అనుకున్నాడు సర్ చార్లెస్ గ్రాంట్ ఇండియాలో? In order to bring out the changes in Indian society socially, morally, and mentally. So Mari, he thought that Indian people at that time were superstitious. Okay, they were following some blind beliefs and they were superstitious. And in order to eradicate the superstitions and in order to overcome the problems of the blind beliefs, he said that English education would help them. Okay, so with that reason he wanted to introduce English education. So he said that Western knowledge in English as a medium of instruction would help remove superstitious beliefs prevalent among uncivilized India. This was a statement given by Sir Charles Grant. He said that Indians are uncivilized, Indians are superstitious, Indians follow blind beliefs. If they introduce English as a medium of instruction, okay, these things will be removed. These things will be eradicated from Indian context. So that was the notion expressed by Sir Charles Grant through his treatise. So he submitted this to the British government, but we need to understand one more motto here. There was one more motto behind Sir Charles Grant's recommendation. With a religious view of English, English had been introduced in India. So the religious view is that to spread their religion in India. So that is the reason at that time the people, when Charles Grant expressed this treatise, people treated English language as a Christian tongue. English people or the Indians treated English language as a Christian tongue. Okay, that was also mentioned in many of the books. Okay, this was the desire that Sir Charles Grant expressed, and here Sir Charles Grant was strongly supported by William Wilberforce. William Wilberforce, who was another parliamentarian, he strongly supported William Wilberforce, strongly supported Sir Charles Grant. But unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't know, but here the recommendations of these two people, Sir Charles Grant and even William Wilberforce, were not at all accepted by the British government because it wanted to maintain a religious neutrality in India. So that's the reason the British government did not consider the recommendations of Sir Charles Grant and even William Wilberforce. Okay, this was during that time. This was before the Charter Act of 1813. Now, this was the scenario, and meanwhile, let us also try to answer one question. This was one of the questions that was asked in the TSTRT, okay, Telangana State TRT Teacher Recruitment Test లో అడిగబడినటువంటి ఒక previous question. Just let us try to answer this. Okay, dear aspirants, remember such kind of questions were asked many times in the examinations, especially in Telangana. ఇది కూడా మన తెలంగాణ TRT లో అడిగినటువంటి ఒక previous question. Let us try to answer this. In 1792, what happened? The very first one, Charles Grant came to India and wrote his treatise. That was the first one. Second one, the first blueprint of English education was prepared by Charles Grant. Charles Grant suggested a policy of bringing about a change in Indian society through the English language. Charles Grant recommended the introduction of English as the medium of instruction. So what had happened as a result in the year 1792? So 1792 లో ఏం జరిగింది ఇక్కడ? So all the three are similar, but before 1792, Charles Grant came into India and he wrote his treatise. And the third one is the right answer according to this context. Sir Charles Grant suggested a policy of bringing about a change in Indian society through the English language. So this was the point we need to understand as a part of this concept, right? So option 3 is the right answer for this question, and this was one of the previous questions that was asked in TRT Teacher Recruitment Test. And let us look at one more, let us discuss the concepts now. So after that, we know that the famous Charter Act of 1813 came into force. Okay, but this Charter Act did not consider at the initial stages the recommendations of Charles Grant and William Wilberforce. ఇది వాటిని కన్సిడర్ చేయలేదు, but later in the amendment, in one of the amendments, they considered the recommendations of Sir Charles Grant and others. And whenever we discuss Charter Act of 1813 related to English language teaching in India, we have to remember the Clause 43. Clause 43, which was later amended, which was later included in Charter 1813. So 1813 లో తర్వాత ఇంక్లూడ్ చేయబడినటువంటిగా మనం Clause 43 గా చెప్పుకోవచ్చు. And this Clause 33 is one of the main things that led to the introduction of English language into Indian education. So what was said in this Clause 43? So it said that a sum of not less than 1 lakh rupees in each year shall be set apart and applied to the revival and improvement of literature and the encouragement of the learned natives of India, and for the introduction and promotion of knowledge of the sciences among the inhabitants of the British territories in India. So this is quite clear to you all. So this British government wanted to allot not less than 1 lakh rupees. Okay, so everiki ivallantunnaru 1 lakh rupees ni, it wanted to give 1 lakh rupees each year. They want to spend it on the revival and improvement of literature. First one, revival and improvement of literature. Second one, the encouragement of the learned natives. And third one is introduction and promotion of knowledge of the sciences. These were the three things. They want to spend the 1 lakh rupees on these three things. But this charter, this recommendation remained inoperative till 1823 because there were many controversies on this allocation of 1 lakh rupees. So మరి ఈ 1 lakh rupees లిటరేచర్ రివైవల్ కొరకని చెప్పారు, ఓకే, ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ కోసం చెప్పారు, అండ్ ఈవెన్ లర్నడ్ నేటివ్స్ అన్నారు. సో ఏ లిటరేచర్, మీడియం ఆఫ్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్ ఏంటి? సో ఇన్ దిస్ మేనర్ దేర్ వాజ్ ఏ లాట్ ఆఫ్ కాంట్రవర్సీ. దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ దిస్ రికమెండేషన్ వాజ్ ఇనాపరేటివ్ till 1823 వరకు ఇది ఇనాపరేటివ్గా ఉంది. అండ్ దే డిడ్ నాట్ స్పెండ్ దట్ 1 lakh rupees ఆన్ ఎనీథింగ్. సో ఆల్మోస్ట్ 10 years, 1813 to 1823, ఆల్మోస్ట్ 10 years ఈ రికమెండేషన్ అనేది ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయబడలేదు. బికాస్ దేర్ వర్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ డిస్కషన్స్, బికాస్ దేర్ వర్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ కాంట్రవర్సీస్ ఆన్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ ఇష్యూ. బట్ వాట్ హ్యాపెండ్ ఇన్ 1823? మరి 1823లో ఏం జరిగింది? వీ నీడ్ టు లెర్న్ అబౌట్ దట్. దాని గురించి మనం నేర్చుకుందాం ఇప్పుడు. సో ఇన్ 1823, especially before that, let us see the controversy in detail. మరి clause 43 ఏ కాంట్రవర్సీస్కి లీడ్ చేసిందో ఒకసారి చూద్దాం మనం. సో ద ఫస్ట్ కాంట్రవర్సీ ఈజ్ the aims of education are not clear. Okay, what were the aims of education on which that amount should be spent? దేనిపైన అమౌంట్ స్పెండ్ చేయాలి? Okay, whether it is on primary education or on higher education. That was the first controversy, right? This was the first controversy. And the second controversy is that with regard to the content of education. The second controversy is regard to the content of education. Should the literature and the sciences be oriental or occidental? Oriental in the sense the Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic languages. So our subject content ki literature ki spend cheyala, or the occidental, that is English language ki spend cheyala. That was the second controversy. Okay, I hope you are all getting the point that are discussed here. The first controversy is regarding whether to spend that money on primary education or on higher education. The second one is regarding the content of education. Okay, should the literature and the sciences are of oriental or occidental? So Indian languages paina spend cheyala, the revival and literature annaru kada, revival and improvement of literature. Madi Indian literature leda English literature? That was the second controversy. And the third controversy was over the medium of instruction. Which language should be the medium of instruction in India? Mari edi medium of instruction ga undali? That was the third controversy. And the fourth controversy regarding the Charter Act of 1813 was relating to the agency of education. Who should take the responsibility of education? Whether the government should take the responsibility, whether the Christian missionaries should take the responsibility, or whether any other public agencies should take the responsibility of Indian education. So that was the fourth controversy. Mari aa money spend cheyalante evaru agency ga తీసుకోవాలి? So ఇది fourth controversy ga చెప్పుకోవచ్చు. These were the four controversies that came up after the completion of the implementation of Charter Act of 1813. And now the British government wanted to give a conclusion to all these controversies. Mari ee controversies kaniti kuda government oka full stop petalanukundi, the British government. So at that time, in order to solve all these controversies, the government established GCPI. So government GCPI ni establish chesindi. Okay, so that GCPI is nothing but General Committee of Public Instruction. This GCPI was established in 1823. 1823 lo the British government established GCPI. GCPI refers to the General Committee of Public Instructions, and this is established by the government of Britain to deal with the educational matters. So educational matters to deal cheyadaniki, especially the expenditure of the sum of 1 lakh rupees. So a 1 lakh rupees ela spend cheyali and educational matters gurinchi, and especially to put a full stop for all the controversies. Anni controversies ki full stop pette vidhanga vitni, okay, GCPI ni establish chesindi. And the president of this GCPI was Thomas Bobbington Macaulay. Thomas Bobbington Macaulay, which we call him TB Macaulay or Lord Macaulay అని చెప్పుకుంటాము. So Thomas Bobbington Macaulay was the president of this particular GCPI. So దీనికి అతడు president గా ఉన్నాడు. And the other members, there were 10 members in this GCPI. 10 members were there in this GCPI, including H.T. Prinsep. H.T. Prinsep, who strongly opposed the views of T.B. Macaulay. T.B. Macaulay views ni strong గా oppose చేసింది H.T. Prinsep. Okay, he is an Orientalist. And then Thomas Bobbington Macaulay, okay, Occidentalist, or we can Anglicist. We can call him Anglicist. And the H.H. Wilson, who was a great scholar. So these three people were there, and apart from these three, there were 7 more people, including Raja Ram Mohan Rai from India. Raja Ram Mohan Rai kuda indulo unnadu because he was also an Anglicist. Atadu kuda Anglicist because he supported the introduction of English language in India. So that's the reason here 10 members were there. In those 10 members, T.B. Macaulay, and we need to remember H.T. ప్రిన్సెప్. సో అవి రెండు గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి. బట్ దీస్ 10 మెంబర్స్ డివైడెడ్ లింగ్విస్టికల్లీ ఇంటూ 2 గ్రూప్స్. మరి ఈ 10 మెంబర్స్ జీసీపీఐలో ఉన్నటువంటి 10 మెంబర్స్ రెండు గ్రూపులుగా డివైడ్ అయ్యారండి. ద వెరీ ఫస్ట్ గ్రూప్ ఈజ్ నోన్ యాజ్ ద ఓరియంటలిస్ట్స్ or we call them the classicists. Orientalists and classicists is the first one. The second one is the occidentalists or the anglicists. Occidentalists or anglicists is the second one. So linguistically there was a division in the committee of GCPI and they were divided into 2, and here Orientalists, it was led by H.T. Prinsep, and this Occidentalist was led by T.B. Macaulay. So the Orientalist party of 5 supported the policy of encouragement to Oriental learning. So Oriental learning ki 5 members ఉన్నటువంటి ఓరియంటల్ పార్టీ సజెస్ట్ చేసింది. ద ఓరియంటల్ లాంగ్వేజెస్ లైక్ సాంస్క్రిట్, అరబిక్ అండ్ పర్షియన్ లాంటి లిటరేచర్ పైన అమౌంట్ స్పెండ్ చేయాలని చెప్పింది. వేర్ యాజ్ ద యాంగ్లిసిస్ట్స్ ఆర్ ఆక్సిడెంటల్ పార్టీ సపోర్టెడ్ దట్ వెస్ట్రన్ లెర్నింగ్ త్రూ ద మీడియం ఆఫ్ ఇంగ్లీష్. సో ఇంగ్లీష్ అనేది మీడియం ఆఫ్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్గా ఉండాలి అండ్ వెస్ట్రన్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ని ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయాలి ఇండియాలో అనేది ఇక్కడ ఆక్సిడెంటల్ పార్టీ లేదా యాంగ్లిసిస్ట్ అనేది సపోర్ట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. సో ఇన్ దిస్ మేనర్ దెర్ వాజ్ నో కామన్ కన్క్లూజన్ రిగార్డింగ్ దిస్ బికాస్ 5 people voted for the Oriental languages, remaining 5 people supported the English as medium of education. Okay, medium of instruction. So there was no proper conclusion even in this GCPI. But when the committee's time was over, now let us look at the views of H.T. Prinsep and T.B. Macaulay. So H.T. Prinsep said that, who is an Orientalist, he said, to the great body of people of India, English is as strange as Arabic was to the knights of the dark ages. So he said that if English was introduced into India, it would be like it would be a strange language to the great body of India, just like as Arabic strange was to the knights of the dark ages. So he condemned completely the idea of Macaulay to introduce English language into India. So as a counter to this, Lord Macaulay or T.B. Macaulay said that a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. So he said that the entire literature of India and Arabia is not at all equal to a single shelf of European library. So exaggerating the great literature of Europe, he said that even the entire literature in India and Arabia will not be equal to a single shelf of European library. So this was the quote given by Macaulay, and he wanted to express the importance of European literature in a manner of rhetorical manner and also in a manner of exaggerating way, right? This is about the view of H.T. Prinsep and T.B. Macaulay, and this question was asked in many examinations including UGC NET లాంటి examination లో కూడా చాలా సార్లు మనకి ఈ క్వశ్చన్ అడగబడింది. Right, let us look at one such question after that. And here the papers relating to the controversy was placed before the executive council. GCPI executive council mundu ee recommendations ani kuda pettaru, and as a president Macaulay submitted his famous minutes to put an end to this controversy. Finally Macaulay put the papers or put his opinion in the form of minutes. So we often think what minutes was that, adi em minutes ani manam chaala saarlu anukuntamu. So that was the minutes. Okay, the Macaulay's minutes was prepared by Lord Macaulay in the executive council meeting of GCPI. So GCPI executive council loni summary minutes ne manam Macaulay's minutes 1835 అని చెప్పుకుంటాము. So in this manner the solution was given to the controversy related to the recommendations of clause 43 in charter of 1813. So ikkadto daniki full stop anedi padindi, and here Macaulay's minutes came into force, and Macaulay submitted, he drafted and he submitted, he got that minutes accepted by the then Governor General. అతడు మినిట్స్ని రాయడం, దాన్ని సబ్మిట్ చేయడం గవర్నమెంట్కి, అండ్ అక్కడే గవర్నర్ జనరల్ దాన్ని యాక్సెప్ట్ చేయడం మనకి జరిగింది 1835లో. సో అక్కడ నుంచి మనం మెకాలేస్ మినిట్ వల్ల ఇంగ్లీష్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇండియాలో అఫీషియల్గా ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయబడిందని చెప్పుకుంటాము. సో దిస్ వాజ్ బిఫోర్ ద మెకాలేస్ మినిట్ 1835 మెకాలేస్ మినిట్కి ముందున్నటువంటి కాన్సెప్ట్గా మనం ఇది చెప్పుకుంటాము. And here we need to talk about the next concept, that is Macaulay minutes 1835. మరి ఇప్పటివరకు మెకాలే మినిట్కి ముందున్న ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ చూసాము, and now we need to look at the concept Macaulay's minute 1835. So Macaulay minutes was established under the chairmanship of Thomas Bobbington Macaulay in GCPI. సో GCPI చైర్మన్షిప్లో ఉన్నాడు కాబట్టి అతను రాసినటువంటి మినిట్స్ని మనం మెకాలేస్ మినిట్స్గా చెప్పుకుంటాము 1835లో. అండ్ it proclaimed the official language policy of the British government. Through this Macaulay's minutes, the British government officially declared the English language as a official language policy. Official language policy గా డిక్లేర్ చేసింది. And this Macaulay's minutes was also known as the English Education Act 1835. మెకాలే మినిట్స్ మనం ఏమని చెప్పుకుంటాము, ఇంగ్లీష్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ యాక్ట్ 1835 అని చెప్పుకుంటాము. అండ్ దిస్ మెకాలేస్ మినిట్స్ was recorded on 2nd February 1835. 2nd February 1835లో రికార్డ్ చేయబడింది. అండ్ he submitted it to the government on the 15th February 1835. 15th ఫిబ్రవరిలో సబ్మిట్ చేశాడు. And it got approved or accepted on 7th March 1835. So this is the preliminary information that we need to understand about the Macaulay's minutes. Okay, and let us look at some other points related to the Macaulay's minutes now. Right, so here English was established as the language of elite intelligence of the educated middle class people of India. So not only the elite people, even the middle class Indians also accepted English as one language. And as a part of his Macaulay's minutes, Macaulay said that we want a class of people who would be Indians in blood and color. We want a class of people who would be Indians in blood and color, but English in taste and opinions and in morals and intellect. So the summary of this statement, which is also a famous quote, and the summary of this is that he wanted a class of people. That class of people may be Indians physically, but when it comes to the morals, values, taste and opinions, they should be like the English people. So physically Indians may live like the Indians, but when it comes to morals, intellectual and taste and opinion, they should be like the Britishers. So this was the quote said by Macaulay in his famous minutes, and this was also asked in many number of examinations. So dear aspirants, try to remember this particular one. Okay, and this was also one of the TRT question, తెలంగాణ జరిగిన టీచర్ రిక్రూట్మెంట్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో అయిన ఒక క్వశ్చన్గా చెప్పుకుంటాము. Macaulay wanted a class of people who should be, okay, what kind of people did he want in his famous minutes? British in blood and color, but English in taste and in opinions. That is not correct. British in taste and opinion, but foreign in blood and color. That is also not correct. Then the third one is Indian in blood and color, but English in taste and in opinion. So the third one is the right answer according to this particular Macaulay's minutes. Indian in blood and color, taste and in opinion, that is not the right one. So the third one is the right answer to this question, and this was the previous question asked in TSTRT, teacher recruitment test lo adigaru. So adi teacher recruitment kaavachu, PGD TGD kaavachu, or JLDL kaavachu, the concept is same and the same kind of questions will be asked in the examination. So that's the reason, dear aspirants, you should learn all these things in detail. వీటన్నిటి మనం జాగ్రత్తగా నేర్చుకోవాల్సి ఉంటుంది. Right, let us look at the next one, that is the recommendations of Macaulay's minutes 1835. మరి ఇక్కడ recommendations ఏంటి, దీని యొక్క క్వాలిటీస్ ఏంటో చూద్దాం. So as a part of through Macaulay's minutes, English education was introduced into India through Macaulay English education introduced చేశాడు అఫీషియల్గా. ఓకే, అండ్ దెన్ ఇట్ వాజ్ కన్సాలిడేటెడ్ బై ద వుడ్స్ డిస్పాచ్ Wood's Education Dispatch of 1854, which was also known as the Magna Carta of Indian Education. So దాని ద్వారా మనకి వుడ్స్ డిస్పాచ్ ద్వారా కన్సాలిడేట్ చేయబడింది. And then English became the language of government, education and even administration. Education, government and administration లో English language official language గా ఫామ్ చేయబడింది because of the famous Macaulay's Minutes 1835. So 1835 ద్వారానే. And what are the recommendations of the Macaulay's Minutes then? So మనకి చేసినటువంటి recommendations ఏంటి? The very first one is English is worth knowing than Sanskrit and Arabic. So he said that there is no need to learn Sanskrit and Arabic, but all the people should learn English language. That was the first recommendation. The second one, natives also want to be taught in English. He said through his Macaulay's Minutes that Indians showed eagerness to learn English language. So that was proclaimed by him in his minutes. And the English educated Indians, natives, will serve as interpreters between the British government and Indians. So they wanted to make some Indians as the interpreters between the Indian masses and the British people, British government. So రెండింటికి మధ్యలో కొంతమంది ఇండియన్స్ వీళ్ళు ఇంటర్ప్రిటర్స్గా ఏజెంట్స్గా డెవలప్ చేయాలనుకున్నారు. ఫర్ దట్ దే నీడ్ ఇంగ్లీష్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్. సో ఇంగ్లీష్ స్టాండ్స్ ప్రీఎమినెంట్ ఈవెన్ అమాంగ్ ద languages of the West. And even in all the Western languages, they said that English is the most superior language. And this Macaulay's Minute introduced the downward filtration theory. In order to educate the mass great nation or the mass people of India, Macaulay wanted to introduce a downward filtration theory in which first they wanted to educate a few people of Indians into English, and then those people will be teaching to the other people. In this manner, English was to be taught to the entire Indians. Okay, ఒక layer wise కొంతమంది ఇండియన్స్ ముందుగా ఇంగ్లీష్ టీచ్ చేయడం, and those people will teach to other people. So that was the intention of the downward filtration theory, but that never went well, and that was a failure. Downward filtration theory was a great failure, which was suggested by Macaulay's Minutes, right? These were the recommendations of the Macaulay's Minutes. ఇవి Macaulay's Minutes లో ఉన్నటువంటి recommendations గా మనం చెప్పుకుంటాము. Right, dear aspirants, look at one question that was asked in previous examinations. ఇది కూడా మనకి previous examination లో అడిగినటువంటి క్వశ్చనే. During India's colonial period, the theory of downward filtration was related to. So downward filtration అనేది దేనికి సంబంధించిన థియరీగా అడిగాడు ఇక్కడ. The very first one is railway, second one education, third one irrigation, and fourth one is poverty alleviation. So the answer is very obvious. The answer is education. He wanted to introduce English language with different phases or levels. That is known as the downward filtration theory suggested by T.B. Macaulay in his great minutes. Right. Then what were the consequences or results of this Macaulay's Minute? మరి Macaulay Minutes వల్ల వచ్చినటువంటి రిజల్ట్స్ ఏంటి, కాన్సిక్వెన్సెస్ ఏంటో చూసినప్పుడు the very first one, English became the language of government, education and administration. That was the first thing. The second one, diversion of all funds for the development of English language. So far చూసాం మనం the 1 lakh rupee, okay, 1 lakh rupee amount that should be diverted to the development of English language. Then Indians eagerness to acquire the knowledge of English or the knowledge of the West. So English, there was a great demand for learning English from the Indians, and multiplied demand for English schools. There was a huge demand for learning English language, hence many schools were established to teach English. And existence of 3 kinds of schools. Okay, 3 kinds of schools were established in India as a result of the Macaulay's Minutes. The first type of schools are the vernacular schools that teach the Indian languages. Second one is the missionary schools teaching English and vernaculars. Second kind of schools are the missionary schools where English language was taught and also the vernacular languages were taught. And the third one is government schools that teach English and vernacular schools. So three kinds of schools were established as a result of this Macaulay's minutes, right? Dear aspirant, this is what we need to know about the concept of the Macaulay's minutes 1835, and a good number of questions can be asked from this area in any examination. And manaki ee concepts manaki teliste easy ga examination lo elanti questions aina manam answer cheyochu. Let us look at one question related to this particular thing. There are some more things that we need to know. First one, 20. English education, the origins of English in India are usually traced back to. This was the previous Gurukula junior lecturers examination. Look at the first question, first option. Macaulay's minute on English education in India 1835. Macaulay's minute on English education in India 1835. These two options were wrong. First one is wrong, second one is also wrong. Because here 1834 was given in the first option, that is the reason first one is wrong. And in the second one 1835 is given, but here only minute was given. We all know that minute is a noun which shows a time, okay, which is equal to 60 seconds. So that's the reason it is not at all correct one. And look at the third option, Macaulay's minutes on English education in India 1835. This is the right answer. But look at the fourth one, Macaulay's minutes on English education in India 1834. This is wrong. So third one is the right answer. Macaulay's minute kadandi, Macaulay's minutes, plural form. Okay, the consolidation of a particular meeting or a conference is said to be the minutes. అది మినిట్స్ అని చెప్పుకుంటాం. 1835 మినిట్ కాదు. సో దిస్ వాజ్ ఏ ప్రీవియస్ జేఎల్ క్వశ్చన్, జూనియర్ లెక్చరర్ ఇంగ్లీష్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో అయినటువంటి క్వశ్చన్ ఇది. లెట్ us look at one more previous question. ఇంకో క్వశ్చన్ కూడా చూద్దాం మనం ఇక్కడ. Macaulay's speech claimed that. What did Macaulay's speech? Macaulay was really an eloquent speaker. So that eloquent speaker Macaulay once said, a dash of European library was worth the whole dash of India and Arabia. So we have already come across this quote when we discussed the class so far. Single cupboard houseful, room houseful, single shelf native literature, single shelf vernacular literature. So the answer according to this class is the third one. A single shelf of European library is worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. Third one is the right answer to this question. Right, dear aspirants, this is about the concept of the introduction of English education into Indian context. అండ్ ఇక్కడ దీంట్లో భాగంగా మనం మెకాలే మినిట్స్కి సంబంధించి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ తెలుసుకున్నాము. బట్ మెకాలే మినిట్కి ముందున్నటువంటి కాన్సెప్ట్ ద చార్టర్ ఆఫ్ 1813 కావచ్చు, ఆర్ జీసీపీఐ 1823 కావచ్చు, ఇవన్నీ కూడా మనకి గత ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో అడిగినటువంటి క్వశ్చన్సే. అండ్ నౌ వీ ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ మోర్ నంబర్ ఆఫ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఆన్ దిస్ కాన్సెప్ట్. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు లెర్న్ దీస్ థింగ్స్ యాజ్ ఎ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద PGT, TGT, ఎస్పెషల్లీ JL ఎగ్జామినేషన్. సో ఇలాంటి ఎగ్జామినేషన్ కొరకి మనం ఈ పాయింట్స్ని కవర్ చేసుకుంటూ చదివితే డెఫినెట్లీ వీ విల్ బీ గెటింగ్ గుడ్ స్కోర్ ఇన్ ద పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ the pedagogy of English or ELT, English language teaching. Right? Thank you so much, and I hope all of you have understood this concept.